Do you think that this is perhaps just a foolish act or rather a targeted provocation?
Well, I would say that this is certainly a targeted provocation, but it is not foolish. It is very well designed, and tactically it achieved its goal, because I think that the primary initiative goes from Netanyahu, who intended to cut the chances of Obama to be re-elected. And to some extent he achieved his goal, because the rating of the actual president is going down drastically. But we should keep in mind that the first aim of Netanyahu was to force America to help Israel in the strike against Iran. But strategically, the results of the provocation, targeted provocation, are such that any aggression against Iran is absolutely impossible on the ground of actual unrest. I would even define this unrest as the beginning of the war of the Islamic State against the United States. So in the context of the anti-American sentiment that is dominating the Islamic State and the more exactly Arabic State, yes, any move against Iran is absolutely displaced. And you should also notice that at the same time we have the escalation of tensions between China and Japan. So the attention of the White House is divided between two very important poles of tension in the political map. This is the Pacific and the Middle East. And the last news were that there were the Marines sent or intended to be sent to the 18 countries of the Islamic world where the unrest is actually threatening to the American embassies. 18 countries is too much, even for the United States, that is leaving now Afghanistan and Iraq after a senseless war that gone many years. So now it is the new round of the American Islamic opposition, American Islamic rivalry, and I think that Netanyahu had outplayed himself, intending to bring the new president to the White House to help Israel in the anti-Iran politics. He created, involuntarily, the situation where actually the anti-Iran move became impossible.
And on the other hand, it definitely places the United States in an awkward position, because if things go this way, the United States is bound to lose.
Well, it puts the United States in a very awkward position, but especially it puts the President of the United States, makes him look as an absolute dog, a sissy that cannot protect his own diplomats and cannot cut the consequences of foolish actions of, for example, Terry Jones or some other provocator of that sort. And certainly the authority of Obama is absolutely torn to pieces. And I think that the issue of this situation will be the necessitated that the United States will be obliged to leave the Middle East and to drastically reduce its presence there.
Now, the thing is that when I was talking to some European experts, some of them saying that, well, of course, the Muslim population, including the Muslim population in Europe, definitely have every reason to believe that their religious feelings have been hurt. But on the other hand, they seem to be overreacting. How would you comment on that?
Well, during 12 years after 9/11, the Islamic community of the world was heavily put to the test by all the military provocations of the United States and the West in general. Like, I'm a truthist, so I belong to the truth on the 9/11 movement, and I believe that was the inside job. So it was put to the threshold of the Islamic community as the fact done by its own representatives, which was absolutely unexpected by the majority of Muslims 12 years ago, and that made the reaction of the Islamic community relatively passive. So after the war was declared on Afghanistan and 2 years later on Iraq, it was still keeping the Islamic community in the demobilized state. But after that, there was so many events, so many bombings, so many killings, Guantanamo, the kidnapping of thousands across the world, and so on, and many provocations like this Danish newspaper and some other films in Holland, in Netherlands, and a lot of things were done after that during these 12 years, that this film was the last straw breaking the spine of a camel. Yes? So I think this is not just a reaction against the film. It's a very short-sighted evaluation. This is the reaction against the whole new colonial policy of the West, which expressed itself only in this just last example. But this final example is a point in the long chain of challenges against the Islamic world. It's just an element of the great structure. So it is not an overreaction. It is a war declared in response to the colonial policy and the wars of the West that were led until now.
Sir, thank you so much. And just to remind you, our guest speaker this time was Gaydar Jamal, chairman of the Russian Islamic Committee.